The Council on Higher Education has recently released a paper on honorary degrees and professorship and the inappropriate use of academic titles. The awarding of honorary doctorates and professorships have largely been questioned because of the perception that they're sometimes used to gain sponsorship and funding favors for universities. Let's speak now to the Council of Higher Education CEO, Dr. Whitfield Green. Doctor, good morning. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Good morning, Mr. Chabe, and good morning to the viewers.
Now, firstly, how does a university decide to give someone an honorary doctorate? Who makes this decision?
Typically, universities would have set procedures within the institution, typically a policy, and the policy would specify how the award is determined and made. It differs across universities.
All right. Now, your organization released a specific paper addressing honorary degrees and the inappropriate use of academic titles. What exactly constitutes inappropriate use?
So, honorary degree would be inappropriately used outside of the context of the university which awarded the honorary degree. So honorary degrees can only be utilized in the context of the university, in engagements with the university, and in communications with the university. They should not be utilized outside of that context.
And should people with honorary doctorates, let's say, be allowed to use the title doctor in the same way as those who earn their degrees through research?
Yes, they can use the title doctor, but as I've just indicated, in the context of engagements with the university. They they shouldn't be using the title of doctor in other social spaces.
Now, Elon Musk's mother, I mean, this has got a lot of people talking, has been awarded an honorary doctorate by the University of the Free State. Do you believe, Doctor, that this award meets the standard criteria for such recognition?
I do believe that the University of Free State would have done due diligence in making that award. And they would have satisfied themselves that the criteria for award of honorary doctorates, particularly the requirement of the individual that's being awarded, having made a significant contribution to society, either in the academic space, in the social space, in the art space, in the cultural space, and so on. So I do believe the university would have done due diligence in that regard. And I do think that if there are questions on that the university should be requested to be transparent about the criteria that was applied.
Do you know perhaps what specific contributions she's made to academia, to society, or to her field that would justify an honorary doctorate from a South African university?
I'm not aware of the particularities of this case. Not having been party to the award or part of the evaluation process, that should best be answered by the Vice Chancellor of the university.
And to what extent, Doctor, in your experience, would you say that financial power influences such a decision?
This is one of the issues that the CHE has picked up. The document that you referred to, the Briefly Speaking article, is actually based on a good practice guide that the CHE is developing and will soon publish. And that good practice guide is based on research that the CHE conducted over the last 3 years. One of the problematic practices that's been observed, not just in South Africa, but worldwide, is that sometimes doctorates are conferred for reasons other than just honoring the person for a contribution.
And some of these reasons, let's just delve into them, because the perception exists that universities award honorary doctorates to gain sponsorship and funding favors. How widespread is this practice in South Africa?
So in the South African context, we did not pick this up as a major challenge. Generally, the practices that we investigated showed adherence to the underpinning logic of awarding an honorary title, honorary doctorate, honoring the person for a particular contribution. However, when you do the research and you do international comparisons, and particularly when you pick up the award of these kind of honorary titles by so-called bogus institutions, or institutions operating on the borderline are outside of formal regulation, then you do pick up this trend of award for other reasons than particularly honoring the person that's being awarded.
So what safeguards do exist to prevent universities from awarding honorary doctorates based on celebrity status rather than substantive achievement?
So this is exactly what the Good Practice Guide is intended to achieve. It's intended to enable a much more standardized and uniform approach across the South African higher education sector in relation to the award of these degrees. And it puts in place guidelines such as universities must have clear policies in place. There must be process around a selection. The university community as a whole should be involved in identification and selection, and Senate should have a big responsibility in relation to making the ultimate decision. The Good Practice Guide also requires that the university should make open and transparent their processes of selection and award.
Now, do you think that perhaps there could be another way of honoring such people besides, according them the titles of doctor or professor? Because, I mean, some doctors and professors find it quite offensive because they went to school for years and years.
It's the reason why the space needs to have much more rigor. We do not want to compromise and undervalue the earned PhD, where people read for a PhD, they do the necessary research, they engage in international scholarship, they research into a novel area, and they produce a dissertation or thesis that makes a unique contribution. So the earned degree is something that could potentially be undermined if the honorary doctorate is abused.
Now, with that said, Doctor, should there be stricter national guidelines governing who can receive honorary doctorates from South African institutions?
That's exactly what we are putting in place. The Good Practice Guide is exactly about that. And then universities, and only universities, can offer honorary doctorates in South Africa. The Higher Education Act is clear about that. So we have 26 public universities. It's only those universities that can offer or award honorary doctorates. The Good Practice Guide is essentially about putting in place those national guidelines. And it is hoped that universities will take these guidelines on board and self-regulate in relation to these. However, if we do detect problems going forward, it might be that the ministry or the department might decide to formally regulate the space rather than utilize instruments such as guidelines.
Now, I know that this might be a little bit controversial, but perhaps necessary. Do you think that universities should be required to publicly justify their honorary doctorate decisions with detailed explanations of exactly how recipients meet the criteria?
I think part of the Good Practice Guide touches on that issue. The Good Practice Guide requires that institutions make public their policies around the award of honorary doctorates and make public the criteria in which they use to award these doctorates. The university should then also be able to, if there are questions about a particular award, to be transparent about why this person justifies the award.